Welcome back, denizens of the Omniverse. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a catch-up video, just kind of give my thoughts out on a couple of movies that I've seen in theaters. And I've just been kind of slacking and getting around to actually making these videos because, I mean, if you've watched the channel at all over the last couple of months, man, it has been non-stop with all the reactions, with all the different things coming out. So I have been a little bit behind when it comes to just having a little sit down talking about some of the movies that I happen to actually make it to the theaters to see. And one of those that I just thought would be funny to even include on here. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about each one of these just because plenty of time has passed by them. A lot of these movies, there's not a lot that I can add that hasn't been already added to the conversation, but I just want to let you guys know how I felt about it. And that being said, I thought it'd be really funny to include one that I saw the film and I just never got around to ever talking about it. And that's Joker 2. I thought about doing this like one year for like April Fools and like legitimately just talk about the movie, like, cause I saw it when it came out and like I was just so like, I just procrastinated at talking about it so much to the point like it just got so far away from me. When the hell did that movie even come out? 2 years ago, 2024. Honestly, I thought it was longer than that. And again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that one. Obviously, that movie definitely got a lot of hate. I gotta say, like, I do think, and I think this is true of a lot of movies today, like there's always like, it's always an extreme when you're looking at reactions and stuff like that online to certain things, out of theater responses to certain properties or whatever, especially if it's one that like is like the follow-up to something that like was such a like a cultural like shift and that just did really well, like the first film. There's obviously going to be a response when that thing pivots into something that maybe everybody didn't quite expect. And I just want to say that I think it got a lot more hate than it deserved. However, it was such a bleh experience to me. Like, I thought it was beautiful. I thought the performances were great. I thought the set design, the production, the sound, like everything technically about the movie was great. I just could not get wrapped into the story. I mean, I love the themes. I love the message. I love the journey that Arthur is going on and the realization that Arthur is going on. It just wasn't as enthralling of a watch as I would have liked coming off the heels of the first film. And I think it being a jukebox musical is part of what played into that. I think Todd Phillips, like, I don't know, maybe swung outside his comfort zone a little too much, because I think that's what dragged the film down a little bit. I like a jukebox musical. I like musicals, but I like when the songs actually move the story forward. And in this, what they did was halt the movie. We'd make some progress with the characters, with the narrative, with the story, and then we'd flip into a song, and that song would just be basically a riff on what we've just learned about. And you just kind of like the story hits a musical number and stops. And then we have like this emotional feeling thing. And the musical numbers are great. They're fun. They're well put together, but they pull the movie to a screeching halt. And some of them just feel like they go on forever. I think one thing that I thought about this a long time ago that might have been able to remedy that a little bit is if we just didn't do the whole damn song. Or if it was structured in a way that carried the story forward. Because I think the best musicals, the musical numbers actually keep the momentum going. And I do not feel that it really did that at all. And then obviously there's the whole full circle moment by the end of the movie where we just wind up right back where we are at the beginning. And then it's just like, it's poetic, but unsatisfactory. Anyway, again, it was just like, I think it was one of those things where like there was so much vitriol online about it that it was just like, a lot of it became noise. And there was decent elements of it, but it was just such a bleh experience. Like I left the theater just being like, well, that happened. But it was not without its merits. Anyway, whatever. I just wanted to finally put that on the channel. Like if I had to rate it, like it'd be like a 5. Other than like the messaging, which I do think is very valid, this idea of being put up on a pedestal, being loved for an idea of yourself versus the real you, and the realization of playing into a character that people think you are versus who you really are. There's a lot of fun stuff with that, because it does naturally progress from the first film, but I just think the way that we handled the telling of that story was just really rough around the edges. For sure. I think it just the musical numbers, man. Again, as a show choir kid and a musical guy, brought the movie down for me in a big bad way, because I just do not think they were utilized all that well. But whatever. It was basically what it was like, it was just disappointing, I think, following the first film, which was so shocking and like bold. And then the second one comes out and it's so Anyway, I don't want to talk about a 2-year-old movie for too long. Next up, I saw Mortal Kombat 2. I saw it like a few weeks ago with my brother. He was like, "Hey, we were just hanging out with the family for a little bit." He was like, "I'm going to go watch Mortal Kombat 2. You want to?" And I was like, "I'll go." And just quick thoughts on the first film. I thought the production design for the first film was great. I like the music, the sound design. I liked a lot of the technical elements on bringing things together. One of the things that I didn't quite care for is the utilization of some of the characters. Definitely the cinematography, like the choice of ways certain things were shot, like for having so many high name, like martial artists in the film playing all these iconic characters, having a first time feature director and then a cinematographer that has not really done anything like this. It showed. It very much so showed. I thought the pacing suffered a lot. Their weird Hollywood need to explain things that don't need explaining, like the whole Arcana thing, whatever. Like there's just some weird things thrown into the mix that I just didn't quite love at all. And the main thing though was like, for having, like I said, all of these like prolific martial artists in the film, they cut the combat so badly, like that. So much of the action was just so choppy and whatever. But this time around, that was not an issue. Obviously, the director Simon Quaid finally has some experience now after all of this. They also got a new cinematographer on board for this one who has a little bit more experience with action, for sure. And it definitely shows. Every time we get into an action set piece, there's not a lot of like cutting around it, except for like when it's Johnny Cage, because of the nature of that character. And also Carl Urban is not a martial artist, which plays into the whole washed up actor playing, like who's a former action star kind of thing. It's also kind of meta in a funny way, because like his movies where sometimes he'll swap out for like a stunt double for certain things, it's also happening for his character in real time, which is funny when it switches between Carl Urban and who is clearly not Carl Urban doing not Carl Urban things. It does make it wildly entertaining. And that's what I'll say about it. Like the second film was so much fun. It wasn't trying to be overly serious. It was going into the tournament, into all of these different things, into the combat, into the fights, and the story itself, with like this kind of like meta chip on its shoulder, which I really appreciated. One thing I will say too is that I get it's a sequel, but it really feels like the second half of a story. And I mean that as if it feels like we start in the middle of like the second act of a film, which makes me wonder like what it would be like to watch part 1 and part 2 back to back, because it really does feel like it's picking up right after that. So it lacks almost kind of like a beginning, middle, and end, because it's kind of really just a middle and end, which honestly I didn't dislike either. I don't know. I like kind of just getting into the mix thing and just going straight into everything. There's a lot of fun tongue-in-cheek references. The way they kind of bring the tournament to life is so inspiring and like creative in how they brought to life the idea of a player selection screen and doing the tournament gauntlet. From the orbs in the sky to the silhouette of the characters being randomly selected for the next fight. There's a lot of really cool stuff, from straight from the video game moves, special abilities, fatalities, Easter eggs and lore and stuff sprinkled all throughout. It was a brutal, damn good time in a way that I felt like the first one was a good time. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I do harp on it quite a bit, but I did enjoy this one more. And I think it just was able to turn my brain off a lot more for the second one. Carl Urban, centering things around this parallel story with Johnny Cage and Katana was like a brilliant way to set up the beginnings and the kind of the through line of this movie. And their struggles, their journeys together parallel so nicely, as Johnny he's this washed up actor who's in the like twilight of his career. He's attending conventions. He hasn't made a new movie in God knows how long, and people are talking about how great he used to be and this, that, and the other. And he's just kind of like on the tail end of his career until this opportunity arises where he's selected to join in the tournament because of whatever gift he still got, whatever fire he still got deep down. Meanwhile, you got all the stuff going on in Outworld with Shao Kahn coming in and taking over Eternia. God damn it. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. When he goes in and he conquers Katana's homeland, killing King Jareth and taking over, and then how that kind of kicks off her story of pushing back, of working with Earthrealm, and that story for her from beginning, middle to end was so much fun. And the way they're working in some other like Mortal Kombat lore as well was really, really well done. And I don't know, I just walked out of it with a smile on my face. I was like, it was fucking sick. There was some elements of it, definitely, because if you know anything about the Mortal Kombat lore and all that, and people are like, oh, you don't play Mortal Kombat for the lore. I play Mortal Kombat for the lore. Like, the fighting's fun. It's the thing I like the characters, I like the world, I like the lore. Call me weird, I play fighting games for the story most of the time. I liked what they were leaning into, but there are a couple things in there that had me going like, oh, well, okay, what are they doing with this? What did they mean by that? There's certain elements that were introduced in the first film they've completely dropped because they were taking fan feedback. I've seen some interviews with them about it. It's like, we dropped this, that, because fans were just not responding to it. There's a couple things they did that, like, I think based on the trailers, we could definitely could have seen coming. However, I do think there's going to be some things around the corner based on some conversations that have been had that are going to bring certain things back around in a way that we are probably not prepared for or expecting. I don't want to get into it because, spoilers or anything like that, but I had a lot of fun with the movie. The fights themselves were a lot of fun. The set pieces, like, there's a lot of arenas that are pulled straight from the games. It's definitely a love letter to the fans in a real big bad way, almost in a way that, like, and the first one was too, to some extent. But not like this. This was like, we're sorry. Like, this movie felt like an apology, to be honest. It really did. There's also some really sick camera work that is done, especially in some of the later set pieces that are utilizing a POV of a certain character's ability. And it's this wild, trippy thing they did with the camera that I really loved as well. So there's a lot of spice that they've added into the mix of this. And again, it's just overall, it's just shot better. The action sequences are so much better structured and captured as well. A lot more of what the actors bring to the table is also allowed to be seen unbroken as well on screen. And it was just a delightful improvement on those fronts for me. And I know a lot of people liked 2021. I do know a lot of people did. I know I was one of the like people on the internet when it came to that movie, but a lot of people did enjoy it. But yeah, I liked it. It's such a popcorn flick and it's such a good time. It's a love letter, I think, in a lot of ways to Mortal Kombat fans. And yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Next up, when I was in Florida, hanging out with the Skittle Squad for our week down in Orlando, on our final day before we departed the Airbnb, we went and saw the Backrooms. Now, I only know loosely about the Backrooms based on like just things I've seen. I know the concept of the Backrooms. I know the concept of these eerie liminal spaces and how that's it became kind of like this cultural shift and movement online about these things through creepypastas, through YouTube videos, through video games, kind of exploring these places. And one of those, because I think if I remember right, it started off as like was it like a 4chan meme or something like that? It was just an image And then that blew up with a creepypasta story around it. And then inevitably you had creators like the director of this movie, who was a YouTuber who has made many a short on YouTube about the Backrooms, creating his own stories on it, his own perspective on what it is, whatever. You know, Kane Parsons, who from YouTube, is directing this film and bringing it to life for A24. So having somebody who had such a hand in like culturally bringing this thing to life and injecting a lot of life into it was really cool. And I found it completely enthralling. Chiwetel Ejiofor, as our kind of like lost, listless protagonist or point of view throughout this story, was such a great grounding character to kind of start us off with this, because we have him and we have this therapist who are both trying to work through some issues while also dealing with these things they're carrying around from themselves, and having them and this otherworldly plane that he stumbles upon in just the back areas of his what do you want to call, what is it called, furniture store. He just stumbles into it, and because he's so lost in his life, it almost becomes this obsession of his, discovering this whole other world to explore it and getting lost in it, the wonder of it. Like, he's an architect as well, or a failed architect, because that's not what he's doing anymore, but that's what he wanted to do. So like he starts to map it and start to explore it, and it's so freaking eerie. And there's such a mystery about this. Even by the end of the film, we don't really know anything about the Backrooms for the most part, except what we've speculated. It's all questions about what it is. And I think that's brilliant. I love when things don't feel the need to just give us answers, to explain everything, because I think it's a little more unsettling when we don't have any of those answers. And watching him work through, or well, process his own internal issues and how those are reflected in the world around him here, and how this world is this weird like other space connected to ours. It's so strange with these little rooms that look very similar, but they keep getting a little more off. And this idea of just like, there was this concept of these are spaces that are being misremembered, in the way that our memory is fallible, and over time, the further things get away, the more jumbled or abstract things can get, or malleable. It's just shot so well. I love the pacing of it. I thought the middle was really great. Like when we're getting into the stride of exploring it, there's a whole segment where they're trying to document it as well. And I think it's set like in the early 90s, I think, in the film, if I remember correctly. And there's this whole little like handy cam segment that makes it feel just like one of those YouTube videos, or like you're playing one of these games. And I thought that was really inspired, and how I don't know. It was really cool. It was really cool. It was really unsettling, super eerie for something that is so straightforward in this way. As far as like the concept, it's so mind bending in the worst of ways, in the best of ways. I mean, what I was meaning was like, it's horrifying to be in there, but it's something so simplistic. There's some things that I find that are just so conceptually simplistic, that those are like the eeriest thing, when it's something familiar, something that should be cozy, something that shouldn't be threatening, that can be made threatening. Something as simple as an empty room with just some estranged doors, randomly stacked items, or items fused halfway through a wall. Be like, oh, that's weird. Weirdly stacked items. Like, it's just like, there's something unsettling about sometimes some of these seemingly mundane elements, and they do such a great job with pulling us through that. And the twist throughout the middle of it, honestly, didn't see that coming whatsoever for me. I know some other people in our group did. I know some of us were more familiar with the Backrooms as far as like the lore goes, and more than others, but like I just was having a damn good time. It was so much fun. I thought it was really creative, really inspiring, and yeah, it's just cool. It's cool enough, again, to see like other people from the sphere, especially ones that had a hand in helping this cultural thing kind of kick off, have a hand in actually bringing this to the big screen, with A24 taking a chance on them. You know, between Raka Raka, you know, the Philippa brothers, and then, you know, Kane Parsons here, and then I'm going to be watching Iron Lung soon because I won our recent poll. So Markiplier got his strut in there, and, you know, Chris Stuckman. You know, it's just fun, like, from various degrees of like reception or success or whatever that came from these things. It's still really cool seeing people from the YouTube sphere, you know, making that leap, you know, to you know, elevating themselves off the platform, or at least just being taken seriously. Because I think like a lot of people in the industry kind of look down upon YouTubers and all that kind of stuff. And I like that there are these outlets that are starting to take chances on people, whether it's by their own efforts, like with Chris, or with Markiplier or whatever, or like, you know, the others that have just been taken note of by studios or picked up. I can't remember exactly how that they got picked up or whatever, but just the fact that there are people that are studios that are finally starting to take a chance on everybody, which is really cool, that we're seeing more and more of that happen. But like when we're talking to like, and again, I haven't seen Iron Lung yet, and but fucking the Philippa brothers, man, Talk to Me and Bring Her Back are fucking wicked ass movies. Check out my reaction to fucking Bring Her Back. It is a insane fucking movie. Like, they are like, I think they're on the rise to become horror icons in the future, because both those movies were phenomenal. I saw Talk to Me in theater, so I have a review for that, but I did do a reaction for Bring Her Back. And this one is no less different because it's such a bizarre, otherworldly, eerie concept, and they do a really good job at capturing that, and then also just having this fun conversation about what it is, what it means, and how it reflects us as a species, as a world, and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of thought that could be put into it as well, and that's one of those things that I really enjoy about it, especially when they don't hold your hand through so much of it. There's endless possibilities. And of course, the next and the last thing that I wanted to talk about here in this video is Supergirl, which I'm going to just cut to my out of theater reaction and review that I posted on social media, the right out of the movie, but I'm going to just kind of do a little cutaway to that. It's short, it's sweet, it's concise. It's basically, there's nothing more I really have to say about the movie, so I'm just going to cut to that. Hey guys, I just got out of seeing Supergirl. I know I'm late to the party on this one, but I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on it. I finally got some free time today, so I went to check out the movie. I've seen the mixed reactions. I've seen the box office numbers and all of that. And I'll also say that going into this, the trailers hadn't really been doing it for me. I think the most that got an emotional reaction out of me was probably the second trailer, I think it was. But I'd say my expectations going into this movie were tepid at best. For the most part, I enjoyed a majority of this movie. I think it definitely has some pacing and structural issues, as well as a little bit of a conflict of visual identity as well in the film. Or actually, not enough conflict of visual identity. The problem is, like, there's no conflict of visual identity, actually. You know, I say this because we planet hop quite a bit in this movie, and if there wasn't a title card for the different planets that we go to or the different locations we find ourselves in, you'd think you were on the same planet the entire damn time. And also, every time we change locations, the way we find ourselves in conflict and get ourselves out of conflict also has a repetitive cycle to it as well. So, like, in the middle of the movie, it does kind of fall into a little bit of repetition that kind of, I wouldn't say halt, but kind of makes the movie kind of crawl a little bit. But the movie itself, like the through line, the emotional journey that Kara is on, is one of the most interesting parts. Millie Alcock does a fantastic job playing Kara as this exploration and pathos as she's tackling this survivor's guilt, this grief, this avoidance of actually confronting any of what she's got, this being adrift in a world where she's no longer got a home, because unlike Clark, she grew up on Krypton, so she knows what it was like there. She knew the people there, and they're gone now, and she's got to find a new place in the world as she's working through that absence. And along this journey, she finds herself coming across this kid named Ruthie, who is kind of on the start of a very similar kind of journey, and that kind of pushes her to kind of confront it head on, what she's going through trying to shield this young girl from following in her footsteps. And I found that really great. The flashbacks with her on Krypton and subsequently the events that led her to meeting with Clark, all that was great. Clark's appearances and his utilization in this was also really endearing. Lobo was enjoyable. Jason Momoa is having a damn good time. And Lobo definitely feels like he's in a completely different movie. But that's kind of just how Lobo is when he just finds himself in random situations. But it was enjoyable. And the action was fun. There's some wonky CGI here and there, but for the most part, I had a good time. The villain is lackluster as all hell, but he's one of those kind of evil where you're just like, dude, just end this dude. And it's a fun ride. It's definitely not run out to the theaters and go check it out, unfortunately, with prices the way they are. Maybe wait till this is on streaming, but it was decent. That all said, thank you for tuning in. Sorry so many of these just took so long to get around to. But we finally did it. We finally ripped the Band-Aid off. And I want to know what you guys thought of each one of these movies. How'd you feel about every one that we talked here, if you've seen it? And if you haven't, what's been holding you back? Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you're not already. Make sure to stick around for more videos as always. And before we go, I want to shout out Lily Chen, Sun, Kiana, Chanel, McGreg, Angela Berg, Calvin Brindley, CP Pastor, Theodore Wolf, Thailand, Denise Mauricio, and the Honk. Thank you guys so much for becoming saviors of the channel, helping sponsor and support the rescues that we take care of here at the office. You guys have been tremendous help with all that. And as always, a huge shout out to all of our channel legends. You and the patrons allow us to do so much of what we do over here. Without you guys, we would not be able to keep up with all this content that we cover here on the channel. You guys make it possible to get up with the editing, copyright claims, all that stuff, so we can keep bringing this stuff to you guys here as much as we can. But that's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.